If you've just set up a limited company and someone's told you to get Xero and you've got no clue as to where to start, then this video is for you. I'm going to take you from a complete blank Xero, nothing on it, all the way through to the point where you could now potentially invoice your customers and handle your accounting on that software. And throughout this video, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Look, Xero is a great software. It does have its perks and it also has a lot of gaps which we fill through other softwares. And wherever these gaps do arise, I'm going to show you exactly how we handle it at MSF. And if you don't know what MSF is, that's the accountancy practice that I run. We've been in business for over 20 years now, helping UK business owners navigate the whole tax system and most importantly, save taxes while being compliant. So yeah, this whole video is just going to be my genuine opinion, how I'd set it up from an accountant's POV, considering I've done hundreds of these setups in the past. So I've got a good idea as to what makes a good Xero account and what makes a bad one. The key thing is, by the end of this video, this is what you're going to have. Your full organization is going to be set up correctly and compliantly. We're going to get your invoices running properly, flowing through the system, and we're going to get your purchases automatically being captured. You're going to have your bank connected to flow in these transactions, and you're going to have your chart of accounts tailored to your business. This whole setup is a proper foundation. Right, so first things first, you're going to be presented with a lot of different icons. When you set up your actual Xero, it may differ from this because this is a demo company. It's got a few transactions in there. So first thing is, you're going to want to find the settings option. How I like to go through it is accounting, and you click accounting settings. This now loads up absolutely everything in regards to Xero's settings. So firstly, organization details. If you get this wrong, everything else is just going to be wrong. So you want to upload a logo. If you've not got a logo set up yet, you've got bigger things to worry about. So do that first and then set this up. So your display name, that's just kind of what you want on the account. You know, when you come up on this drop down here, it's going to show up your display name. Legal and trading name, this is key. If you're setting up a company, go to company's house, get the exact wording, word for word, make sure it's shown on here. Industry, for this example, I thought we'd just use a creative digital agency. But if you've got a different agency, you can simply type in here, say I'm doing marketing, and it'll give you a whole list of all the other things. But like I said, for this example, we're going to be using a creative digital agency. So organization type is pretty straightforward. You're either a limited company, partnership, a person, or sole trader. Again, for this example, we're going to be using a creative digital agency, which is a limited company. Put in your company registration number, and if you want to add a brief description, this is not required, but you can do it if you want. Now here's where you kind of put all your contact details, your registered office address, where customers can contact you from. So you can simply start typing in here. So if you want to put in our address, for example, start typing Enfield Street, and it's going to be somewhere in there. Hit your address, it'll populate in, and carry on. Put in your telephone, your email, your website if you've got one, and any social media pages. Now, why I'm saying to make sure this is fully populated is the fact that you can then choose this toggle option here to display this on your online invoices. Now, whether we use Xero invoicing or not, which I'll get into slightly later, it's a good option to just have everything listed on there. It's nice, it's easy for the customer to see all the details, and if they want to query anything, they've got everything there that they could possibly need. So just tick this option here and you can choose what you want to include. Me personally, I'd obviously want to include my logo. Why wouldn't I? You have to include your trading name. I'd want to include our address and also our telephone, email, and website, just in case somebody wanted to get in contact. And my socials, if I am active on social, I'd include them. So once we've done all this, simply hit save, and then let's move on to the next section. So next up, we'll go through the email settings. So this is simply where the emails go out from and where customers will reply back to. This needs to be right, of course, or else you're going to miss customer information, customer correspondence, and that's not good for business. So for this example, in this demo company, it's taken my name, and it's also saying that the replies are going to go to my email address. If I wanted to edit that, I'd simply go in there, hit the reply to replies at msfassociates.co.uk, and put whatever name there, add the email, and that'll update. Now, another nice feature that Xero has, which you're not going to get if you're using Excel and Word templates to invoice, is you can have all these different types of templates. You've got a default template for absolutely everything, which you can then go into and edit And you can also add email templates. Simply, you go in there, you choose the type. Let's say I wanted to add a specific sales invoice for my customers. I can name this invoice 3, and you can put on all the placeholders. So when they get the email, it's going to say, hey, invoice number from trading name, which is what we've created earlier, what I mentioned earlier. If you put trading name, slightly changes the way that the Xero is set up, and it'll say for contact name, so whoever your customer is. So yeah, you can literally change this template, change this email nicely, save the email. The next time you send an email, you can choose certain templates before you hit send. So now that the basics are done, the basics are ready, and you can essentially send invoices to customers. They can see your contact details, they know who they're getting invoice from. We now need to go into the actual invoice settings themselves. So that's all shown within this sales tab here. So firstly, let's open up invoice settings. Within here, you've got a couple of branding themes. So this is what Xero likes to call them. You have your standard, this something called very orange invoice. So I'm guessing this one would just be colored orange absolutely everywhere. They've set up another one for special projects, but let's set up a brand new theme here. So yeah, it's picking up all the details from our organization details. We can choose to include our company registration number, which generally we do. It's nice to have, especially if you're billing B2B. So essentially you have all this customization here. So you can choose what business details you want to put down. You can choose which customer details you want to put in. If you want to include the country they're from, you'll just add that in. Again, if you want to take certain things off, like their address, their attention to the name, you can do all of that. Branding and styling, this is where if you've got a logo and you've uploaded that, you can choose where it appears. I like to have it center. And choose your branding theme and your color. In Xero itself, you can just, like as you can see, you just changing the color on literally the bottom footer and the middle divider. So great customization option, Xero, thank you. Change the font if you want, and you can go to content. You can show a little bit more in terms of the services you're offering, the products, where you can include the item code and stuff. Again, we'll get into that later in the video. And you have a couple of options to do with taxes and payments. So that's essentially the themes. This is what the customer will see, but it will populate with their information based on their invoice. So if you want to save this, you can save this theme. I'm not going to, because I'm not going to be using this. So now let's go back to the settings page and we'll go to online payments. Now, before I get into online payments, Xero is really good. It integrates with a lot of things. As it shows here, you can have your PayPal integrated. You can literally go and create a lot of things, a lot of integrations with, for example, bank payments are now powered by Go Cardless. You can have your card payments and digital wallets powered by Stripe and a couple of other things. So you can actually go to connected services. If you have an external app, you can bring that in and it'll just show in within this list. So these are simply the options that a customer gets or that you select when you're actually sending out an invoice. So if you are sending an invoice to someone and you just want to offer bank payments, you can tick a box that says, I just want you to pay via a bank transfer. Or if you want to give them the option to pay by PayPal, pay by Stripe, that's also available there. So just put this back to me now from this point here, just switch the camera back to me because I'm going to talk about something. So Xero does have invoicing built in. It's a well-known software for invoicing. People use it, people love it, and we've been using it for many years. However, there are some limitations it has, and it's a little bit clunky in terms of reminders, the customer portal, the way the customer perceives the invoice, and reminders. So we started using a software called Adfin. But now before Adfin, we were simply using what Xero offers, the Go Cardless link, Stripe, and it was just a little bit messy. It was a little bit all over the place. Reconciliations were a little bit difficult. Sometimes links would break and it would just cause a mess, and we were paying a lot of fees as well. Now I'll show you guys quickly over Adfin. I know this video isn't about Adfin at all, but I just want you guys to know that this is an option. Adfin directly integrates with Xero. It's what we use. It's what we've been using for the last 7-8 months now. And it's amazing. It's helped us get paid a lot faster than we were through the conventional Stripe chasing, Go Cardless direct debits. It's just an overall great platform to use. So when you log into Adfin, you do get literally an overview like this. So instead of handling all your payments and stuff in Xero, you just shift all your invoices into Adfin. Again, it's very simple. It's click of a button, it's in Adfin, and you will manage everything through there. If you want to see your customers, you can see all your customers, see which invoices see which invoices outstanding. You can send them customized messages. It's all AI powered, and honestly, it's just a great tool to use. So if you are a creative marketing agency, if you're any sort of agency, a business like a legal business, an accountancy practice just like ourselves, or any business that takes multiple forms of payments, Adfin is your go-to. So if you want to get set up with Adfin, which I'd really recommend, instead of using just Xero's platform, there is a link in the description. It's just a referral link where you guys can go through us, set it all up, and there's a little bit of an incentive to get set up as well. So click the link in the description and check that out. Now, a really quick thing before we get into the meatier stuff is you really want to get this part right. So on the settings, you want to go down to the accounting settings. You want to click financial settings and open that up. Now within here, if you get this date wrong, your financial year end, every time you pull a report, every time Xero looks through things, it's looking at the wrong period and it's just a headache. So go to Company's House, check your year end, bring that in onto here, and literally all you want to do is change the financial year end. It's literally here, manage financial year end. Click in there, you can update the date, change the date to yours, and then come back. So now let's move on to the chart of accounts. Now this sounds really technical. It's really not. It's literally a list, as you can see here, of every single code within Xero. So these are broken down in different categories. So you've got your assets, which are things like your bank account, inventory, equipment that you purchased. And then you've got your liabilities. These are things like people who you owe, wages that you need to pay, VAT, taxes, anything that you owe essentially is a liability. You've got equity, which is how much share capital you have, retained earnings, the profits, accumulation. And then you've got your expenses. These are almost anything to do with the business, which is an expense, is going to be listed here. Things like cleaning, bank fees, purchases, insurance, general expenses, you get the drift, the whole thing. And then you've got your revenue codes, which are your sales, if you get other revenue, and if you want to split out even further. Now, if you guys don't tailor this, there is no point using Xero. This is the whole backend system behind Xero. Get this wrong or keep this generic, it's really not going to provide any value to you. So firstly, you can have, for example, the codes here are automatically named. You can have business bank account. Okay, what if you have 3 or 4 different bank accounts? Simply go in there, you want to click in, you can rename the bank. So the account could be NatWest, for example. You can change that. So when you load up the reports, it shows NatWest Bank, not just Business Savings Bank or Business Current Account. So you want to make sure that it's labeled very clearly. So firstly, go through all your banks or your potential banks, as we'll link them later on. So you want to list every bank that you've got for your business. If there's not enough accounts here, simply click add account or add bank account, and it's going to go through the whole process here. But yeah, do that initially. Then we'll move on to your expense codes, which are pretty key. This is where you can break down a lot. So Xero already does a good job of splitting out a lot of the stuff here. So you've got your insurance, your legal expenses, your motor vehicles, whatever. But let's say you're an agency, for example, your overheads are going to be slightly different to the generic ones that Xero gives you here. So purchases, it may be slightly different. You might want to rename that and call it something else. Now, instead of purchases, you can call this subcontractors, and you can label it maybe video editors or something. So that will now save there as a code within your direct costs called subcontractors, video editors. Again, cost of goods sold, it's a default account. You can't go and change that, but you'd want to, these default accounts are fine, they're good. But again, to get further detail, you'd really want to rename everything. Make sure it's nice and clear. Direct expenses, again, that could be renamed to something else, which is an actual direct expense, like your client-facing softwares. So all of these are direct expenses. It costs you every time a client comes on board. This cost increases. So you want to split that out. So all your client-facing softwares when you're categorizing transactions, you'd want to use this code. Anything to do with subcontractors and video editors, you'd want to use the subcontractor video editors code. Now, for you guys watching, if you want to pause here, you can do this. What you want to do is essentially write down every single type of expense your business is going to have and just name that expense down. And you want to just simply categorize it. Either it's going to be for example, it's going to be an overhead account type, it's going to be an asset, or it's going to be an expense, direct cost, depreciation, but don't bother with that. So it's either going to be a direct cost, expense, or an overhead. So you've got to choose, you know your business best, get that down there. And if you get this wrong, it's not the end of the world. It's really not going to change anything to do with your taxes or anything like that. It's just for reporting purposes. So now go into revenue at the top here. And here by default, Xero just gives you 3 different accounts. Fine, but usually you want to have a little bit more of an insight and a drill down into your sales. This is where the meaty stuff is. So sales is fine. Let's actually create a new account. Account type is just going to be sales. Code is fine. And within here, let's say for a marketing agency, we want to break down the sales for their retainer incomes. Oop, I need to enter a unique code. Let's just put in a random number that's available. Good. Save. So now when it comes to reporting, we have a separate line for retainer income. Any income generated from retainers, you're going to want to use this code to track that income. Then we can create another one, or we can change this sales here because this is pretty generic anyways. We can call this maybe consultancy income. So now as you can see, you can build that up. It can be multiple different accounts, and overall you get a better picture of your business. So far what we've done, we've set up the organization. We've created some email templates. We've introduced Adfin, and we've created and customized the chart of accounts so that it can suit your business. So now that that's all done, we want to actually get this working. So Xero needs to integrate with a bank. Now, for example, in this case, we've got a NatWest Bank, which we renamed earlier. So this already has a few transactions pulled through. For example, it's got about 29 transactions here because it's linked to a bank. But in this case, it's just a demo account. So when you guys load up your bank, it's just going to show nothing in here. So you want to go to manage account. No, you don't. So you want to go back into the account settings, go into the chart of accounts, which is here. Find that bank account that we was on about. So it'll be under the assets. And you want to actually link this bank. So on your guys' platform, it'll be slightly different where you could actually go through this, put the name details in, and it will then essentially allow you to connect a bank. So actually I lied. So what you want to do is go to the chart of accounts and hit add bank account. Here you'll have a list of all your business bank accounts. For example, using Amex, you hit that, you continue, log on, and it'll ask you how many days you want to import the transactions from. Start it from the start of your financial year and make sure it's all coming through. So once you've done that, you'll essentially end up here and it'll start populating transactions as and when they come through. So now when we go through this tab here, which is called the reconcile tab, this is what everyone knows as bookkeeping. So we're basically going line by line and categorizing each transaction that's come in to either directly into a code or matching it against a invoice or a receipt that we've received. So income is fine. Every time you raise an invoice, simply by clicking add here, create an invoice. When you put your contact details in, so let's just invoice 24 locks for something, say you can pay me in 7 days. Branding theme, how we set up earlier, you can have another one called very orange maybe. I'll just use very orange. Items, these are all items that we can set up. And the price, for example. So once you send this invoice to the customer, it goes into your Xero as an outstanding invoice. Now, when your customer pays you into your bank, in this case, into your NatWest Bank, that specific invoice will be always constantly looking for a matching bank fee transaction. So in this case, somebody raised an invoice in this demo account on the 1st of June 2026. It was for £6,187.50. Reference is invoice 0035. Now, in the bank, the customer, Ridgeway University, actually paid using that reference 0035. So what we can simply do is press OK on this, and it's going to match that payment against the invoice that we raised. So the moment you do that, that invoice is now going to be marked as paid, and there's not going to be any further chasing for that. So that deals with the sales side pretty nicely, and it's pretty clean doing that through Xero. Now, on the other hand, let's say you're spending a lot of stuff here. So for example, Cooper Street Bakery, 7-Eleven, again, some Swanson Security. These aren't picking up anything that has been matched against. So essentially, you've got a couple of options here. If you don't have a receipt for this, if you don't have any sort of proof that this transaction has occurred, and you just want to code that straight in, you can, if it's a consistent supplier and you want to track what you've paid them throughout the year, you can simply put their name in here. If it comes up, we'll use that, but for this case, it hasn't. So we'll just use cash coding. So this Cooper Street Bakery, for example, you've bought some bread or something for yourself to eat whilst you're on travels, which is fine. That can be a potentially legitimate business expense, but there's nothing to match this payment off against. So this is where Apron comes in. Now Apron, this is a beautiful tool again. Now this allows you to capture documents, and it's got AI embedded within inside. You can categorize documents, it's linked in with your Xero directly. So the moment you post something on here, it's in your Xero account, it's ready to be tied up. Now it's a really good tool, really great price point as well, and it provides a lot more than just receipt and invoice management. We use this ourselves at MSF, and if you guys want to get into this and not use Xero's basic hub doc, which frankly is awful, I really wouldn't recommend using Xero's option. Apron is what we use, and it's what we've used alongside all our clients, whoever has Xero or QuickBooks. Now, if you want to get set up with Apron, we also have a referral link. It's in the description, so check that out. And if you want to sign up. So essentially what you want to get is all of these being green, because there's been a document, it's been pushed into Xero. We know what it's already about. We know what the account or what this bakery purchase was, whether it was bread, whether it was tea or milk. So all that's broken down. We can choose the account that it's going to be tied against directly through Apron, and Xero just picks that up and you just hit match. Now let's say you didn't have all that. So all these expenses, for example, this is parking. We can basically go up to the top, and because we don't have an invoice, we can just do cash coding, and we don't want to tie it against a supplier because it's just a random supplier. Then essentially, let's do this 7-Eleven one. It's just a miscellaneous corner store, and you bought something like a drink or something. So you can choose the account here. It's going to go down under general expenses. It can go down under absolutely anything if you want. For this example, let's just call it travel costs or travel national costs. VAT, fine. There's probably VAT on there, but we would call it no VAT because there's no invoice to prove. So you would just tick that, and you can just save and reconcile. So everything's fine. What's going to happen is this transaction is going to be tied up against no supplier. It's just going to be cash coded into the code travel national, and there's not going to be any VAT, and the total amount is £15.50. Save and reconcile. That's going to push that through. So now that transaction is gone and dealt with. So the goal essentially is make this number that you see in this reconcile 27.0. If you're doing your bookkeeping, I want to open your Xero and see nothing here. This list should not be here. So everything that's generally green, as long as it ties up pretty clearly, then you're fine. Just match that off. Make sure you have an idea as to what you're doing. Now, essentially, that's that really. So we've done everything to the point where you're able to now invoice your customers. You're able to get payments in. You're also able to see when those payments come in because your bank is linked. And you're also able to tie these bank payments against an invoice or a receipt or an expense. Now, if you get that right, if you do that and you use Xero for that, and you keep up to date with your books, honestly, there's no better way of getting a financial health picture of your business. Now, this is simply done by going to reporting and let's see the profit and loss, because who doesn't want to know if they're profitable? So once that loads, you'd want to put in your financial year. So because we put in the settings that it was March, so it's put 31st March 2027. Now I want to see what happened this month. Because I'm up to date with my books, I can do this. So we can see consultancy income was £14,496.51. And our subcontractors, the video editors, they charge us £700. That's a really good margin, that. And overall, after all our administrative expenses, we're left with a profit of £11,812. Now, with this information, you can do a lot of things. So this 12 grand profit almost can and will mean there's some taxes owed. So a smart business owner would see this at the end of the month and think, oh, okay, let me put aside a certain amount. Make sure I'm ready for this tax bill when it comes because I've made really good profits. And then there's the other one who'll be like, yeah, not good enough, and just carry on with their day and get hit with a tax bill 9 months later and complain to their accountant that it was all their fault. Don't be that second guy, be the first guy, because honestly, HMRC do not like the second guy. So there you have it. That's the full sort of Xero breakdown as to how you'd go from nothing to having at least a decent foundation where you can now develop upon. So if you've got any questions regarding anything that I've covered in this video, just drop it in the comments and I'll reply back. Or I'll make a further video if there's a lot of people wanting a specific thing. Now I know Xero's full of features like payroll, VAT, projects, which we couldn't really cover in one video. It'll need separate videos to go through. But if that's of interest, again, drop a comment. Let me know what you're exactly interested in and I'll make sure to do a video on that. And now if you want somebody to actually look at your numbers and not just guide you through the software setup like we've done today, this is where we come in. We're accountants, we're bookkeepers, we're tax advisors. We handle the full thing from start to finish. That's getting you set up on these systems, making sure it's tailored to you. All hands free, by the way. You ain't got to do anything apart from getting your billing set up or putting in your login details. Of course, you've got to do that. So yeah, we can handle the full thing from start to finish, to the reporting, to the filing, to Companies House and HMRC. So if that's of interest and if you want to hand off this whole process to somebody who's qualified, click the link in the description. There's a free 15-minute discovery call. Let's see if we're a good fit. And also, subscribe if you found this useful. It takes a lot of effort building all of this sort of stuff.